mean, they added the reason why later, and I think that was like, I
I hate, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it just,
I mean, just
if this is a,
give him a pack of camels, and everything's fine. You know, everything's fine. Makes
uh,
total sense at that point. Like, Grandma, is
that's
that
fair.
you? No, Obi-Wan.
Um,
Where are my
his,
menthols?
yeah,
This will make a fine addition to my collection. And then he's got like a bunch of Zippos, and he's like collecting Zippo lighters. Okay, sorry, we've gone off the rails,
yeah.
y'all.
Hello, bricks, chicks, and minifigures. You are listening to AFOLs Welcome, where we talk about all things Lego from the perspective of two adult collectors. We are your co-hosts, West,
And Grinch.
and today we're going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 3, continuing our Lego Star Wars series here in preparation for May the 4th. So Grinch, do we have any PSAs this week?
We have none. We have our May the 4th special coming up, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I think we're going to pause on the Lego Star Wars recaps here after May the 4th. We'll probably trickle them out one or two at a time, but not necessarily in the quick succession that we've seen here shortly. I'm going to add, just as always, please leave a review, provide us some constructive feedback or just feedback in general. We always appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, and review. And next, let's look at some exciting Lego news.
Exciting Lego news.
Grinch, take it away.
So, the exciting news I wanted to talk about this week was the Milky Way set that was kind of leaked, then officially revealed shortly thereafter. And I don't know. I don't really like the art sets. They're kind of boring in my mind. I like Lego as a medium for art is kind of perfect already as like its own form of art. And
Yeah.
for me, when they're trying to replicate the art, it's just super tedious. Like I did the Iron Man mosaic, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is terrible. But the Milky Way is kind of interesting. It's pretty colorful, and I like that it's more of like a greebling art design versus just like a mosaic where you're just instead of literally putting the same exact piece down every single time. There's some differentiation in here, some kind of nice part usage, different parts to kind of give it a little bit different texture, different effect, and overall it looks pretty good. Still a little boring for me, something I'm definitely going to pass on, but looks cool. I can appreciate it. They've got a little sticker on there that shows you are here, which is kind of funny in regards to the Milky Way galaxy itself. But yeah, I mean, could be a nice piece pack because these are pretty cheap, for price per part, anyways. And there looks like there's some opalescent like dishes on there, and I can't tell if the tiles are the opalescent color. So maybe there's an argument to be made here of, if you're looking for a lot of different shades of blue, purples, lavenders, kind of pastel spring colors, this might be a good way to get some of those pieces.
Yeah, I am really excited about this set, actually. It's a lot different than the art sets that have come out in the past. And those have always kind of skewed towards maybe that like comic book style with the individual dots. I have one of the brick mosaic sets that you could buy where they took like a mosaic of your face and then they produced it on a 48 by 48 plate. That was kind of fun, and it was nice in the square medium. I liked the art sets, how they came out with the circular medium that gave it a little bit more texture. But what I think is really cool about this one is this set uses a lot of that greebling technique and blends of color to really build out a bigger and just more detailed set, right? Because this allows the designer to use the three-dimensionality of Lego bricks to their advantage. And there's some really cool stuff being done in the adult fan of Lego community with this type of greebling technique and art. And I just encourage our listeners and viewers to go out and take a look at some of that stuff. I will post a note in the description to some other channels that are doing this really well. But it's just really, really neat. And it's really neat to see Lego do this officially. So I'm really excited to see this set and see kind of what it looks like in person, and then what how it performs. Although we'll never truly get great performance figures from Lego. So I suppose if we see it on sale, that'll be some indication. But for me, what this really looks like is a physical version of impressionist art, basically, right? With Lego, where you see those sets that have, or those paintings where they're done in like oil or something else, where there's the brush strokes almost become three-dimensional. And when you look at it up close, right, you don't see the full painting. It's not until you take a step back that it really becomes visible. And so I think that's where this set really shines, and has the potential to really kind of change the Lego art genre a little bit. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. But so some news that I thought was really exciting this week was there was some revealed images of the 2024 city sets for the summer wave. Now, I'll remind the listeners, this wave is the one that's coming out with the red pandas and the gorillas and those awesome leopards and stuff, those figures. But this is also the series where we're getting like a new Lego harbor, which is kind of exciting because we don't get those big infrastructure sets very often. And I'm looking at an image of it shared on YouTube by another content creator. And, the thing with city sets is they've continued to compress what is in a Lego city set. And so while the idea of this set is really exciting, when you look at it in person, it's a little underwhelming, I think. I'm excited to maybe see this in box art form and see kind of how Lego puts this together. Maybe see some people review it online, but it does look a little small on the images. So, but it's very rare that we get like a big gantry crane like the one in
back in the day.
Yeah, that's exciting to see too. I mean, that could be used in a train yard. That could be used in a garage. There's all sorts of applications for something like that. So we'll see kind of how that plays out ultimately. But Grinch, you had something else too for exciting news this week. What did you have?
Well, I was trying to find an image of the harbor you're talking about, and I couldn't. So, but if it's not very big, then it's probably not very exciting. I would want it to be bigger personally, but I'll have to wait to see. When it comes out and is revealed. There was a ton of stuff announced this week too. I mean, there was like this Adventures camp from Lego Friends. It's like two. I think it looks like two sets that you can kind of combine for like this outdoor summer camp. One that gave me kind of a chuckle was the Tuxedo Cat, which is like an art set. I can't tell if it's. I mean, it's under. I haven't seen a picture of it, so I can't tell if it's gonna be like the traditional art style, like the Milky Way, or if it's maybe more of like the parrot that we saw. The parrot that just kind of came out, where it's like an actual just like flat kind of parrot image versus like it's not on like a canvas or on a a blank. Sorry.
Are you referring to the cat still?
Yeah.
I think it's buildable.
It's a buildable, built out cat.
Yeah.
So
I don't even think it's two-dimensional. I think it's like a figure almost.
Got it. Okay. And then the retro radio that we talked about last week is actually a gramophone, not a retro radio.
I wonder if that was a translation error. Do you think?
Could have been, yeah, depending on how it was leaked, as it might not have translated 1-to-1, or it could have just been like a
gramophone, but like maybe it translates to radio or something.
Yeah, like old radio.
Yeah.
And then the last thing was I saw these images of the Mercedes AMG kind of dual pack of the Roadster and then the G63. I think the Roadster looks pretty sweet, but the Mercedes van, I don't know, the dimensions look a little bit off to me. It has that really imposing hood and nose, and I just don't see it on here, but we'll see. The image isn't the best.
You and I talked a little bit about that before we started this episode, and recall back in the Speed Champions episode, I said that was something I was really looking forward to. The thing for me about this image, which it's on Lego Reddit, Lego Leaks Reddit, if I recall, that's where you found it?
Yep.
The listeners to go look up if they're so inclined. What stood out to me on this image and why I'm a little skeptical of what I'm looking at is the Roadster, not the Roadster, but the G-Wagon has windshield wipers on it. And while Lego has done windshield wipers in cars in the past, they have not done windshield wipers on Speed Champions sets. And so, yes, like the Jurassic Park Ford Explorers had windshield wipers. But I don't believe another, and if there's someone in the comments who wants to correct me, please correct the record. I do not believe a Speed Champions set has had windshield wipers. And that is a very common thing for mock builders to build out, to put windshield wipers on stuff, where Lego just sort of skips out on that because they recognize that like it's almost too much detail and it takes away from almost distracting. So, and the other thing that stood out,
I think it's totally distracting because the little lever piece that they use for windshield wipers is it's. I understand why people use it, but like to scale, it like only like covers like a half or like a third of the windshield. So every time I look at it, I'm like, how can you even see out of that? Like, is somebody like peeking down below the windshield line to be able to see it? I don't know.
We've teased this episode a lot, but I think we need to talk about scale at some point, and maybe not even scale, but an episode on like realism in Lego as a form, because this is a very good example of where I think
I would just rather not have it, right?
Right. That level of detail isn't necessary on a Lego set.
Because when you look at a car, you can't see a windshield wiper.
Yeah, generally they're hidden by the hood.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree. I think we're on the same page here. The other thing that stands out to me that's strange too is the inclusion of the A-pillar, which Lego generally does not do on Lego sets. So they'll generally take the
what's an A-pillar?
So sorry for the non-car fans and
for me,
for you, the A-pillar is the metal beam, the first metal beam on the car that runs up the side of the windshield. That's what's called
they've done it on like one or two sets, right? With like usually with like a bar or something.
Sometimes it's done with a bar, but
this is defined. This is like brick built into it.
Yeah, and that's generally another sign of someone like mock building. So I don't know, dude. I'm just the way the hood comes up on that G-Wagon too. G-Wagon hoods are a little slanted, but they're not that aggressively slanted.
I know, so that's why I don't like this. I think it needs to be straighter.
I just feel like it's somebody trolling.
Okay.
But to your point,
hold on.
Okay.
I bet you a Lego set of your choice under $30 that this is real. If I win, I get to choose a Lego set under $30. If you win, you get to choose a Lego set under $30 that I buy myself. No. You get to choose a Lego set under $30.
I'll make it even more specific. If you win, I will buy you this set.
Okay.
And if I win, you will buy me whatever the actual one that Lego comes out with.
How will we know? There's no set number here, though. Oh, but what if they don't come out with set 76924?
The set number is irrelevant.
Whatever. You get to pick the dual pack that's released on August 1st.
the dual Mercedes pack.
Okay.
And then I will buy you the dual Mercedes pack if it happens to be the exact. And we'll use the windshield wipers and the A-pillar. And there's some other very defining features in those pictures that are interesting.
Okay.
So,
well, I know we have some recurring listeners. We have a lot of followers now on Spotify. Please follow if you're listening on Spotify. Subscribe on iTunes. But a couple that I'm going to name off the top of my head that interact with the podcast quite a bit: Calvin W, and then Jay. Jay, you know who you are. You got to hold us accountable here, right?
yeah.
The bet just happened live on air. I'm really looking forward to building these. I was actually going to get them, but now I don't have to buy them. So thank you, Wes.
Well, you're welcome, and we'll see what this turns out to be. So, again, and here's the deal, right? Like, if Lego decides this is how they're going to do Speed Champions from now on, it'll be interesting. I like that windshield on the AMG Roadster. For the listeners, it's the smaller curved windshield in like the new dark black or the translucent black that is has been featured on some Roadsters in the past. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like in person. But anyways, let's continue to our main topic, shall we? Unless, Grinch, you have anything else you want to share?
Not unless you want to buy me any more Lego sets.
I'm one bet at a time. That'll keep us kind of copacetic here. So, alrighty, let's press.
Today's topic.
To our main Lego topic. So let's talk about Star Wars Episode 3. This was the third movie, obviously, in the Star Wars prequel. The sixth movie for our non-Star Wars initiated fans, which I would be hard-pressed to find one of them. That is how Star Wars was released. And so it's the sixth movie, third in the prequel series, technically the third in the
A-list movie. Let's go. I love Episode 3. I was memeing before.
It's a
I love
9
this
series
one.
of movies.
A triple saga.
A triple saga. There we go. Let's call it that.
A trilogy.
Trilogy. A trilogy cubed.
Trilogy cubed, so, yeah.
Yeah. So this is in the
Cubagery.
first trilogy, third movie in the first trilogy, which was the second trilogy to be released, if this still makes any sense.
We're talking about Star Wars Episode 3, y'all. Star Wars Episode 3. The Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith. This movie was notable because this is the movie where we see Darth Vader or Anakin Skywalker turn to Darth Vader.
Dude, what?
Right? So we all know this is happening.
What?
Is that a spoiler?
Anakin? The little boy from Tatooine?
Yeah, believe it or not.
Sorry.
Believe it or not.
I've been moving stuff all day, so I'm in a trolley mood. We're going to have some fun with this episode.
Yes, so this movie is the one where we see Anakin fall to the dark side, where we see the breakup of the Republic, the formation of the Galactic Empire.
I love the Empire.
Setting in motion the events that would lead us eventually up to A New Hope about 19 years later. So this movie came out in 2005.
Wes?
Yes, sorry.
Can I ask you a question that's not related to Lego, but is related to Star Wars?
Okay.
You've said on this channel before, you've got Wes Jr. When Wes Jr. is of age to be introduced to Star Wars, are you going to watch episodes 4, A New Hope first? Are you going to start from there? Or are you going to start from episode 1?
Oh.
Like, are you going to have them enjoy it the way that you did? Or are you going to be like, well, I mean, here's my argument for both. I mean, biggest cinematic reveal of all time is Darth Vader saying, "No, Luke, I am your father," right?
Yeah.
But it would also be kind of cool to not know that Anakin turns into Darth Vader. Like, wouldn't episode 1 through 3 be like so much more powerful if you're like rooting for this young character and then you're just like, wait, what?
I almost thought that like the greatest cinematic moment was somehow Palpatine returned
Well, that's the
from.
best writing of all time. Yes.
I see. I see.
Yes.
No, Grant, you bring up a fantastic point.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
would counter this point
This is why I'm not ready to be a parent, but yeah.
to pull on this tangent a little more. That do you think the movies stand up if you go into it? If you are a virgin Star Wars viewer,
Absolutely not. I already know where you're going with this. You'd get to episode 4 and be like, "What is this crap?"
not even
Because
for, because I agree with you that that would be a bit jarring. My the larger point I'm getting at here is would because I really liked that thread that you were addressing, right? Watching Anakin rooting for this character and then not knowing he falls to the dark side.
but then
His
it
fall to
comes
the
full circle at the end, so that like whole like where he redeems himself is that
yeah.
much more powerful too because of the way the character was developed, right?
Well, he never really redeems himself. Let's be honest.
Dude,
Like,
he becomes a force ghost of himself. He was redeemed. Like, let's be honest.
okay, well, yeah, we can address that in a second. But do you think the movies do the work? Do you think that 1 and 2 set up Anakin to be that good of a character?
All I'm
Because I would
saying is people
contend.
criticized one
I
and
love,
two for having too much like Galactic Senate. You know, they joked that it was like Star Wars C-SPAN, and then all of a sudden everybody comes around and loves Andor because it's the House of Cards of Star Wars, and I'm like, but that was the criticism against Episode 1 and 2. Just as like a generalization.
Episode 1 and 2 was definitely not Galactic C-SPAN. It was like, I don't even know, but I hear you. I hear you. I'm a huge fan of Andor. So, but anyways, let's get back to Star Wars Episode 3 Legos.
Got to answer the question.
How's that sound?
Okay, you can think about it. You can think about it. You can come back to it later.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. I am willing for West Jr. to press to test on this and to try Episode 1 first. As much as I'm not going to enjoy watching it,
Dude,
I
I've
will.
come full circle in the prequels, and I love them now. Like no troll.
What was that channel that you said it was like prequels no cheese or something like
Yeah, I
that?
don't know if it's on YouTube anymore, but I'll have to check. It was called like Episode 1, No Cheese, and like instead
Yeah.
of Jar Jar like being Jar Jar and being like Misa Misa so dumb, it's like Jar Jar just has like this weird voice, and he just goes like, and
It was like subtitled.
they're subtitled. Yeah, like but like when you watch Episode 1 with subtitles, it like literally says what Jar Jar says. So it'll be like Misa, Mesa, you know, and like apostrophe and like like all, but this is subtitled to be like real words. So
Anyways, okay.
okay,
Well,
22 minutes in, let's go.
let's get it. Star Wars Episode 3, Lego Star Wars Episode 3. It's another movie wave, right? It comes out in line with the movie. The first wave, 2005 to 2007, marks kind of a big change for Lego Star Wars. I don't know if this is the first wave where we had, no kidding, flesh tone figures, but it's the first movie wave where we do. And so that's kind of the new thing for this wave is gone are the yellow faces, in to stay are the flesh tone faces.
This was the wave that initiated flesh tone.
Was it? Because I
Yes.
know there was still other sets that did it too, but I didn't have time to look that up tonight to be fully honest. But I know it was the first movie wave that did. So, but
Okay, okay. Technically, it was 2003 with the NBA.
yes, and Cloud City theoretically,
And then Cloud City after that.
yeah.
But this was the first like full license like movie theme wave that did it.
Which Legos continue that to this day. If it's a licensed theme, they will have flesh tone faces. So
And I would
the
argue that even those NBA sets weren't technically. I mean, it was technically because like they had a brown face for Lando Calrissian, right? But the
yeah,
other minifigures were still yellow face.
right,
So I
right.
would I would argue that this is the official like we're having everybody's likeness here. Obviously, they couldn't back then have done like Lando and like not brown, right? That would have been like kind of messed up. But I think that was maybe the awakening of like, oh, maybe we need to start doing this, and then this was that first full wave where like every minifigure included in the wave, apostrophe, sorry, clone troopers, um, it had a flesh tone.
And so this series too, to kind of capitalize on or to continue discussing sort of unique things about this, there is one very unique thing, and we're gonna chat on that in just a second. And for the listeners who understand where I'm going with that, we're gonna get there. But this wave also continued the trend of having the clone troopers with the masks, the
Mm-hmm.
slits in their still cut out, and so they would have the black face underneath, and then the helmet would still have the spacing so that it would shine through. So that was still continued in this wave. I don't Now that's a great point. I don't know when that went away. We'll have to look that up for the history of the clone troopers at some point, but it was still persistent this far into the Lego Star
That
Wars.
that update occurred, I believe, in 2010 slash
Okay.
nine. It was that. It was the because they were kind of releasing these sets up until about 2008 with that old style. And then it was that next wave. So, like the next episode 2 wave, the next episode 3 wave after kind of the initial waves, it
Yeah.
changed.
And I would buy that because I'm looking at the Republic Swamp Speeder from 2010,
Mm-hmm.
and it has, you know
Oh, no,
what,
that has the
actually,
old Clone Trooper.
yeah, yeah.
Huh,
So
they changed it for the pilots.
interesting.
But I guess yeah, huh, okay. I'm corrected. So 2012
No,
then. 2012 and
yeah,
2014, huh?
that persisted for a while. So, anyways, that the first wave, 2005 to 2007, we have some interesting double releases in this wave, at least one. But Grinch, I want you to talk through the elephant in the room on this wave in this series, because Lego will always, if they have some sort of gimmick, they will give it a try. We've talked about this in the past. Lego loves a gimmick. And so when there's an opportunity to push something, they will do it. And this is a prime example of Lego pushing out kind of a new or different or unique gimmicky feature for Lego Star Wars. So, Grinch, without further ado, what was really unique about the Lego Star Wars Episode 3 Wave 1 sets?
The box art had a photo of Darth Vader on it, and like spoiler of.
Get out of That is not it at all.
um, well, full disclosure, we share episode notes, and Wes wrote "Elephant in the Room," and I was like trying to think, and I was like, well, we got to talk about the light up lightsabers, like we have to, and now I'm fully convinced that's what Wes meant as well. So this was the 2005 wave, and it was interesting because I'm getting ahead of myself. I apologize. The 2005 wave, the initial wave, had light up lightsabers on 4 of the characters in these sets. So the not every single Jedi had a light up lightsaber that was released. There were a few sets that had Obi-Wan in it that didn't have it. There was a Darth Vader transformation set that didn't have it. But in the Ultimate Lightsaber Duel, the Duel on Mustafar set, both Obi-Wan and Anakin had a light up lightsaber. So their right arm was actually built into the torso. You could not remove the right arm. You also cannot remove their head. You could remove their helmet piece, and you cannot remove their legs. I believe I'd have to go check on mine when I get it all. unpacked. But you could remove the left arm, and that's important because all of that's important for a couple reasons. Number one, you can't remove the head, which means you can't remove the cape. So in today's standards, it's hard to find some of these with a pristine cape because they shred. And if you've got a minifigure with the cape nowadays, it's really easy to just replace the cape and bam, they look brand new. You can't do that here. Now, what would happen with these minifigures is you'd press down on the head, their lightsaber would light up, and it was essentially a little flashlight off of a lightsaber that was built into the right arm. And you could remove the lightsaber blade, but you could not remove the lightsaber itself. And then so you could put a different color blade on there, and the other, new color would light up. Now, the reason you could remove the left arm is because they had a battery inside of them. And that was the issue with these, is that the batteries would die, and it was really difficult to actually replace the battery. What you had to do is you had to pop off the left arm, and then you would press on the inside of that arm, and the back panel would pop off of the back, and then you can replace it. I've actually done it before. And the issue with that, though, is like that's not to Lego standard because you're not really supposed to take off the arms. You can. It's not encouraged by Lego because when you put them back in, they'll snap. So that's really the challenge here, is like if anything breaks, it breaks, and then you're also kind of doing something that would be quote unquote illegal in Lego terms of like being encouraged to remove their arm. Now, the four that came out in this were Mace Windu. Oh my gosh, I forget her name. What's the other? Luminara.
Oh,
Luminara.
yes.
Unduli. Luminara Unduli, thank you. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin. Now, just because the set had Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't mean they had the light up lightsaber. It was specific to the Mustafar duel set. It was specific to the Wookiee Catamaran set for Luminara, and then it was specific to the clone turbo tank for Mace. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that they kind of re-released this set for a little bit, the clone turbo tank with Mace Windu, and there was actually a version out there without the light up lightsaber down the line. So they retired the Wookiee Catamaran and the duel, ultimate lightsaber duel, after 8 months, and which is like really short-lived, especially for like a mainstay Star Wars movie, right? This was the initial wave, and some of these sets only lasted 8 months. But then they updated the clone turbo tank and re-released it, the 2006 edition, without Mace Windu and the light up lightsaber. So he's super rare. These are super cool. I have them all. You could also get a Darth Vader. He came in a Star Wars Episode 4 set. I believe it was a TIE Fighter, the re-release of the TIE Fighter. And then Lego City also had a policeman that had a light up flashlight hand, which I probably need to get that minifigure at some point. Needs a strong word. I absolutely must get that minifigure.
Grinch, what a
that was my
recap.
rant. Yeah, sorry.
Dude, you went above and beyond there.
Gave me a mile and I took 50.
I love it. I did not. I know we both loved this movie. I saw it in theaters, I think 2 or 3 times. I think you did as well. We engaged with this wave initially. I think looking through these sets between the 2007 to 2005 series, we got the General Grievous Starfighter.
We had a lot.
The Battle Pack, the V-Wings.
I think we had almost all of these, right? We didn't have Darth Vader Transformation. We had Droid Tri-Fighter, General Grievous Chase, Jedi Starfighter vs. Vulture Droid, Ultimate Lightsaber Duel, Wookiee Attack, Arc 170, Wookiee Catamaran. Yeah, we did. We had the... I still have it. The Snail Droid. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I don't know why. I'm on Brick Economy, and it's showing for the Wookiee Attack and for the clone Scout Trooper original, it's showing the alternate build.
Oh,
And I'm
that's
like, I
random.
don't remember this set at all. And now that you mention it, like, no, I remember it exactly. Yeah, it was the snail droid. Okay, that makes so much more
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. We
I
had
was
like
so confused.
all these but the clone turbo tank. Probably because that was like the most
Yeah,
expensive
well, I
one.
don't think we didn't have the ultimate space battle, did we?
No, I always wanted that one, but that one. So remember, the thing that always reminds me about this wave is like we just got the first Lego store in era, so like we were going to the Lego store like every week at the mall.
Yeah.
And I saw it on the shelf, and I was like, I really want that one. It was on shelves for 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months. So that must have been part of
That
wave two that they just never
yeah.
released, and they just pulled it.
That
Three
was the only
months.
way too to get the red Obi-Wan
Yeah,
starfighter.
yeah.
Which I know they eventually came out with the blue one that I'm looking at now with the hyperdrive booster ring, which I always loved.
I forgot this one existed.
Yeah, the hyperdrive booster rings.
And then I didn't realize they came out with an AT-AP Walker in 2008 either.
Yeah, that was kind of a mid-wave series. Let's talk through some of the kind of initial wave pieces to some other notable things. This is the first wave where we got a battle pack, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was our
But
first
that came
Star Wars.
later, right? That was like 2 years after the movie wave.
Yes, that was in 2007. So the battle pack was like the weird speeder where they're sitting forwards and backwards,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had 3 different clone troopers, which was kind of cool to get. You had 2 kind of blank ones, the Coruscant shock trooper, and then a trooper with yellow on him. And then this is also the one where you had a battle droid pack too,
Yeah.
which was kind of the first one.
Came with 7 battle droids.
Yeah, and it had 3 super battle droids. So it was definitely a great battle pack for droids. So this was a big series, right? This first wave, there was a lot going on. And I think it was a very impressionable wave for Lego Star Wars, because certainly things like the battle packs continued on, where we got our first clone troopers, which you and I both mentioned was really kind of the challenge with the Lego Episode 2 sets, right? Which is that they always kind of left you wanting more clone troopers. This was some really cool introductions too of the swamp troopers. So we got those troopers in green for the first time, both in that scout trooper armor, and then eventually we'll get them in like the very camouflaged armor, clone armor, which is really exciting to see. But this first wave, like I said, definitely an exciting wave. Lots going on here, and really paired well with the movie. Things that stand out a little bit are, there's definitely like in 2005 with the Luminaris included in the Wookiee Catamaran set, like some details that Lego just didn't quite get right with the movies, right? Because she wasn't, at least in the movies, depicted as on Kashyyyk. Other than that, though, I mean, everything else
She
was
was
pretty
she
spot
was
on.
she was on Kashyyyk in the movie.
Was she?
Yeah, you see her there.
Oh,
I'm
all
like,
right.
hold on, wait, do we need another bet?
No, I'm okay. One at a time. One at a time. So yeah, this first wave was, I think, a very influential wave, and I mean, there was a ton of sets, right? Like between 2005 and 2007, we're looking at almost half the wave, which is fairly substantial. So, I mean, I think that's pretty impressive. We're looking at close to 18 sets out of a total of about 47. So, yeah, a little under half, like maybe 40% of all Lego Star Wars Episode 3 sets came out in that initial wave, which makes sense. That's certainly consistent with what we see.
Well, it's important to also remember that just because like Microfighter would go under the Microfighter wave, the Planet series goes under the Planet series. Like there's have been some other Star Wars Episode 3 stuff, but a lot of it usually falls under Clone Wars.
Right. And so yeah, there's a lot of notable stuff from the kind of Clone Wars, Star Wars Episode 3 era that we're just not going to get into because it was never highlighted as, you know, Star Wars Episode 3 set. And for our reference, I'm looking at the Star Wars Episode 3 sets that you can find as a theme in Brick Economy. So that's the reference I'm using here for what defines a Star Wars Episode 3 set. So we kind of had an initial, you know, that we had that initial wave, then we had that AT-AP Walker. It was kind of a standalone set, no pun intended, in 2008. And then in 2010, we start to get a few sets, not a ton. We get a Republic Swamp Speeder again. We get a ARC 170 re-release. And then we have Emperor Palpatine Shuttle, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I think, the only time we ever get the shuttle depicted in this capacity.
And burnt up really Darth Vader.
Yep.
Which is kind of wild.
Transformation set.
We do. But it still, like, surprises me that Lego makes that minifigure. Like, what purpose of play does this minifigure have?
Well, in the burnt up Darth Vader 2, in that series, he's a little bit more, like, visually burnt than in the other one. So there's definitely a little more aggressive.
Can I say something before we go too far out of the original wave? And it's just something that I kind of just thought of as I was sitting here looking at these and spending a little bit more time with them. Think about the Ultimate Lightsaber Duel, how they've never done like another set like that because they used like these hockey, like it was like that like old style like flip hockey, you know, Technic pieces where you actually put them on these little discs and could like turn them and like move them up and down and fight. They've never done that before, but
they kind of did that with the Duel series from like with Rey.
But these were like suspended, or not suspended, but they were attached to a Technic piece. You could move them. Like those were right. When they did the kind of like duels, they were stationary. This was like, no, let's have these people like fight. But that just had me think about like these older sets, and it's really cool to see something from like 2005 that, for all extensive purposes at the time, and even to this day, is a quote unquote like perfect Lego design. Looking at the Droid Tri-Fighter, that initial one, I know they've refreshed it before, but that set stands up to today's standards for sure. I mean,
there's really not like a better way to remake it.
Yeah, even like the Jedi Starfighter. You know, I know they've remade them, and I know they've, you know, maybe made them a little bit thicker so that, you know, the R2, you know, the R2 droid can sit inside it better. But like some of these initial designs were, for all extensive purposes, literally perfect. I mean, I just think that's kind of cool. Like going back and looking at these of like, sometimes the best version's one we've gotten before and not necessarily the bigger one or the more defined one now in terms of just like size and scale. You know, I know we like to talk about scale a lot, but I was looking at those and I just wanted to say, like, I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at the 2020 Jedi Interceptor set, and it is remarkably similar to the one that came out like way back in the day. And including that really unique cockpit piece that isn't really used elsewhere.
Right.
Anakin is still, the minifigure is still kind of leaning farther back into the, you know, kind of in a very Lego way that they do all the time where the figure's like flying like this. And so that's still consistent. And then, they still have a slot for the full R2 unit in the ship, which never really made any sense to me. How that worked with like the wings, you know, like if you look at the ships and like how they're set in there. So that always confused me, but I tried not to think about it too hard. And then, like it's just a lot of those pieces are the same pieces. There's really not a lot that's changed. So and the stickers are the same.
Obviously, the 2021 is better than the 2005 one, but like they're 15 years apart, and sometimes when you look at, the original X-Wing, right, versus the re-release of the X-Wing, not this latest one, but the one before that came out, I think it was like 2016 or something like that. Like that one is far and beyond way better than the
Yeah.
original. Whereas like these were pretty darn good,
Well, and it's interesting too because not only that, right? Visually, this is Star Wars trying to, between this interceptor, right, which they're using the words interceptor, and the V-wing, they're trying to create this visual connection between the two movies,
Mm-hmm.
between episode 3 and episode 4. So you see the hexagonal, or it's not even hexagonal, but the cockpit in the Jedi Starfighter divided as that like circular cockpit divided into that octagonal panel that we see on TIE fighters, right? And the silhouette, or not even the silhouette, but the cross section of the Jedi Interceptor looks a lot like a TIE fighter with its wings deployed. Like you mentioned, it's a very simple set. But what's interesting, not only looking at like that 15-year spread, if you look at these X-Wing from the newest prequel film from episode 7, Poe Dameron's, the orange and black one, and then you look at his newest one from episode 9, which I still will submit I think is probably one of the best Lego X-Wing playsets ever made. They are extremely different, and the latest one from episode 9 is by far the better set.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting to see that with a much larger year gap, these sets have remained relatively unchanged. I think it's a wonderful point, Grinch. So
Yeah, and like even the Vulture droid is perfect. In fact, I would go as far as say this is the best Vulture droid Lego's made. So
yeah,
I just think it's cool.
and it is really cool, and I think it's neat to see this kind of played out in real time. I'm looking at the newest droid tri-fighter that came out in 2014, and it looks remarkably similar to the one that came out earlier.
Little thicker, little thicker,
Yeah, but not a lot.
but not a
Some better
lot.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like
So
again, very similar.
second wave comes out 2010 to 2014. We see a steady release of these sets. Very similar titles. We see another AT-AP Walker, Droid Gunship, Droid Tri-Fighter, another General Grievous's wheel bike, some more interceptors. We get some more battle packs. So we get a Kashyyyk Troopers battle pack and a Utapau Troopers battle pack. These are the ones where their faces are now fully covered. We have a new ARC 170. In fact, we have 2 of them. We have a couple of Jedi Interceptors. The one that I think is really interesting is we actually get Anakin's green Jedi Interceptor, which, if you remember, is really Darth Vader's Jedi Interceptor because he's flying it effectively. We only see him flying it as Darth Vader.
And then this comes with Newt Gunroy. And then it comes with like the little like Mustafar lava droid. So I wonder what's happening in this scene.
It's interesting, yeah, because this is basically the
slaughtering of the CIS.
Yeah. Interesting that that's what's been depicted here, but I suppose it makes sense from a playset perspective.
I don't know. Again, it's a playset. The scene that you're supposed to play is literally Anakin going and slaughtering Newt Gunroy and then Obi-Wan coming and fighting him. Whereas like they could have just made Anakin's Jedi Interceptor green, maybe called it Lord Vader's Interceptor, and just included Anakin, and that's it. But they like were like, no, we gotta have a play feature here. So maybe next time we'll make a Jedi Temple set with a couple of younglings and call it like Lord Vader's first visit to the Jedi Temple.
Lord Vader's transformation. One of the interesting sets in this wave that we haven't seen before is Palpatine's arrest.
Oh, it's so cool.
Is like a really interesting set. This was back in my dark ages, so I don't remember this one being released.
Yeah. This is right This was like kind of my first foray back into Lego as an adult because I was getting the couple Lord of the Rings sets at the time, but I wasn't in deep. I was just getting those Lord of the Rings sets, and that was it. That was it. And then it
Yeah.
wasn't, it was a few years after that when I was like, all right, I'm back. But this is so cool. And remember what I was talking about with Cloud City? I think you're on Brick Economy, but I'm using Brickset, and so
Mhm.
I have used value here. Do you?
Let's see. I don't think I've used.
So new value, and again, this is Brickset, so put a big asterisk on it because it's just a scraping tool, right? It just scrapes the internet. So it could be somebody could be selling it as open box new or new but no minifig. It just
Yeah.
scrapes the internet. So kind of asterisks here, but the value new is 450 and the value used is 350. Typically, looking at Anakin's Jedi Interceptor for an example here, the value new for that's 120 and the value used is 60. So there's
Yeah.
about a 2 times difference there between new and used. Here, it's a lot closer, right? It's only about 50%. So, and that's true for some of these. So like the Utapau Troopers, right, where it's like people just want the set itself, right? There's the desire to get the set. Whereas you go to 2014 and you look at the value used for the V-wing, it's $40, but the value new is $100, right? That's more than twice. So
Yeah.
Palpatine's arrest, we talked about this last time about how it might be an interesting thing to look at. This is a very sought after set, so it just kind of goes to
Yeah.
show that like people just want the set, and rightfully so. I mean, it comes with some Jedi that we'll maybe never get again in Lego form, right? We get Sensei. Oh my gosh, it's Tin, right? Tin, Tin. And then Egg and Kolar, and then we've got Kit Fisto before, but just a really cool minifigure selection, right?
It is, and it's a great Sassy Tin, and then
Saucy Tin, thank you.
Megan Kolar, and then Keith Fisto. Yeah, I mean some great, very notable and unique minifigures. I want to pause and revisit real quick the light up minifigure, the lightsaber one, because those are. I just wanted to share some information from Bricklink, which is if you were to want to buy that today, just like the Anakin one, for example, from that Ultimate Duel set, it's going to cost you or set you back about $145. So there is a lot of value in this series. There's a lot of sets that are worth a lot right now, and then even amongst those sets, the minifigures themselves can be worth quite a bit too.
Oh,
If you look at
brother.
the Ultimate Duel set,
Look at the Darth Vader.
oh, I'm sure it's a lot. The Ultimate Lightsaber Duel set is about $447 right now on Brick Economy new. And those figures for the Light Up Anakin were new figures, or conditioned as new.
Mm-hmm.
You take 145, that is almost, I mean, it's a third of this set is just the value of Anakin alone as the light up figure.
Mace Windu's at 190 now.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of collectible figures in this series. Really, we get into Series 3, right, for third wave. We get a few sets in between 2014 and 2020, but we really kind of get into a third wave. I would maybe argue even not even 2020, but maybe even 2019 is where we could call that a start. We get the 20th anniversary sets. We get a droid gunship, the AT-AP Walker again. Followed by a duel on Mustafar, Anakin's Jedi Interceptor in 2020, General Grievous' Starfighter, and then we mentioned this set on the Episode 2 set, but the ATTE is actually considered an Episode 3 set. That's the one with Clone Commander Cody in it. And so, which I suppose makes sense. The box itself, other than the fact that they're wearing the new armor, doesn't really stand out as an Episode 3 set, but
We're kind of in this weird phase of Star Wars right now where, like, they used to you could tell the wave based off of the box art. Like they had the one with the clone on it with the blue background. They had, like, episode 3 had, like, the angry Darth Vader face. They had one with the Yoda. Rogue One time frame, right? They had one with the Death Trooper. But now it's just kind of like Star Wars.
Yeah, and it's not always clear what
right.
Which is probably okay, to be honest. So
I think the giveaway here would just be the Utapau troopers, and then or the 212 troopers, and then the background of the box art is Utapau.
That's probably fair too. Yeah. I have not looked at it too much, although I do like this ATT, and it is still up for sale. So, and I think it's certainly probably one of the best versions of the ATTE that we've ever gotten. So, which is exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, you can find it on sale right now occasionally.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Brick Economy says it's supposed to retail for $139, but the market price right now is closer to like $120. So, which is kind of nice. It's a good time to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
So let's chat real quick about we've kind of already addressed notable sets in this wave. There are really no UCS sets coming from episode 3. Someone could argue the Venator, maybe, right? Because that's the first time we've seen the Venator. Although I also think that's
there was the UCS General Grievous, right?
Clone Wars set. Was there a General Grievous UCS?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it 10186. It was released in 2008. I mean, you could argue it was Clone Wars, but again, it has the Utapau background, angry Darth Vader box art, and this was more brick built than it was when they, did the whole buildable figures. So, like, this was truly, I believe it's a I believe it is considered a UCS set.
What is the set number?
10186. It's got it's got like a plaque on it. It's a pretty cool set. I think this is how they should do buildable figures. I would love it. And they kind of have, right? They kind of went away from using like the Hero Factory Bionicle style buildable figures and, with the ones that they're doing today.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. He wasn't super mobile, was he? Like, could he move?
I never built it. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think he was fairly mobile.
I'm looking at his arms. It doesn't look like they're actually able to articulate, and the bends are just the 35-degree Technic cross bends, so they can't even move, like twist, which makes sense. But that's how they're kind of built out more skeleton-y too with those pieces. He does look really cool. This is a really great brick built version of him. What a miss of a character though in the movie. He's kind of played to be this badass, and then he just coughs and hacks and acts like a goober.
I mean, they added the reason why later, and I think that was like,
I hate, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it just.
I mean, just give him a pack of camels, and everything's fine. Everything's fine. Makes total sense at that point. Like, Grandma, is that fair. You? No, Obi-Wan. Where are my menthols? This will make a fine addition to my collection. And then he's got like a bunch of Zippos, and he's like collecting Zippo lighters. Okay, sorry, we've gone off the rails, y'all.
A bit of a tangent. What to you, Grinch, really stands out as like a hit on this series?
Highlights, I would say, are definitely Palpatine's arrest, like probably the biggest highlight of this whole
Yeah.
series would be that. I think the light up lightsabers will like go down in history, like and be synonymous with this wave, episode 3. Clone turbo tanks are super cool. Um, Personally, I was a pretty big fan of like that kind of like late 2019 refresh that they did of a couple of like the Kashyyyk sets. I
Yeah.
think my critique here is just like with episode 2, um, and episode 1. I think they're due for a full like give me 8 to 10 more sets. Give me a full wave of episode 3. And I don't know why Star Wars isn't doing that anymore. I mean, I know they kind of are trying to come out
Hmm.
with like whatever the movie is, but it seems like Star Wars is a little bit dry right now for Lego, or has been anyways, because they kind of just do these one-offs, and it just leaves you wanting more. Like every year, hit a movie over and over again, and then have your staples, right? Have your staples that you refresh, but then just give us a fresh wave and add a couple of novel sets that we haven't seen before. I think that would go, really, really far away for me. Um, but the one thing I
So
wanted to, mhm.
we're gonna get to novel sets in just a second.
Okay. One
Um,
thing I did want
I'm
to
gonna
point out, because I pointed it out on all the other times, is we don't really have a Luke land speeder here. I mean, sure, there's the Jedi Interceptor, but every time they come out, it's Anakin's Jedi Interceptor, it's Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor. And by
yeah.
Anakin's, I mean the green one, right? Or the yellow one. Like, at least they're different, or it's the blue one with the
Mhm.
hyperdrive ring. So that would be the Luke's Land Speeder award. I think we just made up an award for this podcast. What's the Luke's Land Speeder award in
Yeah.
this series? But they're different, right? There's 3 or 4, or even they could do a 5th variation of them. I think they've done a Yoda one before, right? So, um,
We've done a
yeah, at least they're different. And so otherwise, though, there's not really that one thing where you're like, okay, cool, they're doing episode 3 again. And it's like, oh, you know, another Luke's land speeder. Great. So I think those are kind of my main takeaways, biggest things
yeah.
about this whole wave is
Any misses from the wave?
any misses.
Yeah. So like anything that like you're just like, I don't really know why this is included.
Um, I don't think there's any big misses. I mean, without sounding like a broken record, and I think it kind of proves itself here too. With episode 3 is like more play sets. And again,
Yeah.
if you look at Palpatine's arrest, it's one of the best sets, or the best set of what we talked about today, and that's a play set. So I would
Yeah.
I would think that would be a really cool set. I do think, and like, not talking about the younglings or Anakin's transformation, but a Jedi Temple set would be really, really cool. I think
Mhm.
any
Mhm.
sort of Coruscant set would be awesome. I guess we have Palpatine's rest, but again, any sort of like Coruscant set would be really cool. Um, yeah, those are like play sets are my ask here again.
I have a few ideas for that. Actually, I'll run past you in just a second. But I have, let's see, for hits for me, I really like I think the turbo tanks are great. I like that
Mhm.
that feature with the wheels, how they roll over stuff. Anytime Lego is able to do that, that articulation is really cool to see. Although I wish they were a little bigger. They don't need to be actually sized, however, because they'd be huge. I do like, I mean, I like all of the clone troopers, right? This is where we got the variation in clone troopers for the first time. So we had the cool airborne masks for the Utapau troopers. We got to see the camouflage troopers in Kashyyyk. It just was a really interesting look at those characters. I'd love to continue to see some of those guys built out a little bit more.
Mhm.
The misses for me for this series, I'm actually not a huge fan of the Scout Walkers. They're just always oversized.
Sure.
And I know that Lego is like forced to build them that way, but I just don't, I don't know, an oversized Scout Walker like that just isn't something that I'm like.
Now, are you referring to the AT-AP or the clone little Scout
No,
Walker?
the little like
Yeah.
Scout Walker guys.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
So
Like the
I
20th
do have an
anniversary one.
ATAP, the latest one. Yep, like the 20th anniversary one. I do have the latest ATAP, and I don't regret buying it. I don't know if I'm gonna leave it assembled. It was cool to get the minifigures. You got Commander Gree and then the
Mhm.
other kind of Scout Trooper, but it doesn't do a ton for me. I don't look at it and go like, oh my gosh, this is such a cool set. It's kind of an awkward walker. It's like this 3-legged mobile artillery piece,
Yeah, it's kind of
which
a dumb. I don't want to offend anybody. It's kind of a dumb design, though.
yeah, this is definitely one of those things with Star Wars where like I think sometimes from a design perspective, the tail wags the dog a little bit.
It would be cool if we added a third leg, wouldn't it? No,
Nice.
this ship's different because it has 3 legs. That one only had 2, but this is an AP.
What? Because it's like with the Arc 170, right? They're clearly trying to visually draw a connection between the Arc 170 and the X-wing Starfighter,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, fine. And then they're like, but this one has like gunners on it, and you're like, okay, cool. But there's only 19 years of difference in Star Wars continuity. So like, are we saying in 19 years, like, we went from having ships with 3 people on board to only ships with 1 person because technology got that much better? Like,
And then in episode 8, they went backwards in times, and they now have to drop bombs from like a basin off of a little bomber ship.
I just think sometimes like Star Wars, like they try overly hard to like sort of narratively connect everything. Like we talked about, like visually trying to connect the V-wings to the TIE fighter and the interceptors to the TIE fighter, where you're like, I get it. Like I don't. So I think it's just kind of interesting to see, which is why too. I also, going back to the General Grievous thing, like I read the novelization of Episode 3, so I think they wrote it out in the novelization that he had been injured, but you never got any of the dialogue. You never got any of his backstory. So you just see him like hacking up a lung, and he's just kind of like hard to fight. And you're like, okay, his backstory doesn't make a lot of. If you were to go in raw to the movie without any other context, he's not menacing at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of a miss from the movie telling perspective, because the movie should be able to stand alone with some respect. But anyways, we're kind of again getting, this is a tangent episode. Those I think are the hits. Misses are like I said, I think I've already hit on them a little bit. There's some sets that kind of just like they're cool, but it's sort of like what's this really doing here ultimately. It's a great wave though. I mean, in general, I would love to see another Arc 170. I think the last one is 2014, a decade ago. I think that would be really cool to see. I always liked that ship. I thought it looked really, really interesting. So
I remember you got the first Arc 170 fighter, and it was like right around that same time that Cheese Slip came out, and we were pretty young, so like we weren't like we built Legos, we followed the instructions, like we were kids. I'm trying to explain this, but I'm like we were just stupid kids, and you were like, dude, look at this piece, it's so cool, this is gonna like change Lego, and I'm like, it's not even a stud on it, and it was a cheese slope piece. And I always remember that because like you were the mock builder when we were kids. I was just the player of Lego. And like cheese slope is like one of the most used Lego pieces now.
Yeah. No, it was really cool to see that like for the first few times, and just the level of detail it added, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, let's talk other set ideas. I have a few to pitch to you. I want to pitch the duel on Invisible Hand with Grievous and Count Dooku and Palpatine and Anakin and Obi-Wan. So you have like a little platform, almost like Palpatine's arrest, but think of it as more like blues and grays and blacks. And you have like the 5 of those figures, and maybe some of those IG-11 droids or whatever, or IG-9 or whatever they were. And you can have kind of like a 3-way fight where you have like Grievous and the IG droids fighting Anakin and Obi-Wan, and then you can scrap that and then do an Anakin versus Count Dooku fight with Palpatine sitting in like a chair. And
Two
there's like a way to
things.
yes,
Knowing Lego, those would be 2 separate sets because
fair enough.
you charge $60 for one or you charge $40 for the both, right?
Fair.
Number 2, I would love it, but that's also when Anakin decapitates Count Dooku.
Yeah,
And I mean, they literally put Anakin Newt Gunroy in the Interceptor, and the only time you ever see in the movie where he goes and slaughters him. They've got Darth Vader transformation where he's literally burnt. They have printed burnt flesh. Not saying they wouldn't do it. I mean, I guess I am saying they wouldn't do it, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they did do it, right? Because yeah, I mean, and we talked about with episode 2, they made. I don't think they'd ever make it again, but they did when the movie came out. They had the Tusken Raider camp, and to in Lego's defense, they get concept arts from the movie. They have a general idea of what's happening, but they don't necessarily they haven't seen the movie. They don't have all the context. So maybe that one was one of those. We'd have to go back and look at when it came out, versus when the movie was released. But I don't know. I just don't. I think they'd have I think what they would do is they'd have like Palpatine's rescue, which I think they have a similar concept, and then it would just be like Obi-Wan, Anakin, Palpatine in like a chair, and like some super battle droids. I think, and maybe Grievous, right? So like maybe I think they wouldn't have Dooku.
I just feel like an episode 3 Dooku is definitely missing from the story.
Dooku in general hasn't, there's only like 3 of him.
I'm trying to think of another. I had another idea, but we can talk offline about kind of other set ideas. I think other Jedi Starfighters or Interceptors would be interesting. I think revisiting like Obi-Wan's blue one. We haven't gotten that for a long time.
Yeah.
Good. You could do some Tantive 4 stuff, right, with the birth of the kids. You don't need to have like a birthing scene, but like you could have oh, I remember it. Palpatine versus Yoda in the Senate.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You have like one of those spinning Senate daises, and then just even if it's just like the little round dais with like Palpatine on one side and Yoda on the other, you know what I mean? Like
I thought I saw a mock of somebody who made the Senate chamber.
Yeah, I'm sure he's out there. I'm sure it's out there.
Yeah. I'm like 99% sure I saw that like recently on like Beyond the Brick. Like a giant Senate chamber. I mean like 40 Senate pods high sort of deal.
It was like illuminated too.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean I think in terms of ships there's some stuff, there's not a lot that they could do in terms of like other ships. A Venator that's front opened perhaps. There's notably no gunships in from episode 3. There's the Coruscant one, but I think that one was technically a Clone Wars set. So again, I think they have to re-release Palpatine's arrest. Just iconic.
I think it would be a good set.
Yeah.
Final thoughts for Star Wars Episode 3.
I'm going to pass it to you, and I'm going to ask you a question, because you asked me when I led Episode 2 conversation. Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3. Which has the best sets?
Ooh. I'm pulling up the brick economy, just like look through them again. That's tough, dude. That's a great question.
I think it's close. I think it's closer than some realize. I'm sure some people who are listening have like instantly in their mind clutch been like episode 3, period, end of story. Because I think a lot of people love the Clone Wars, but I really like some of those episode 2 sets. Um, but I would personally have to say episode 3. Um, what this does though make me want is just more Clone Wars. And I
Yeah.
think it's kind of maybe a little bit of a cop out, but it kind of makes you want a little bit of both, right?
Yeah. No, I would agree, but in the opposite direction. I would almost say I think I like the episode 2 sets better
I
because
almost
you
said
do
it too.
and the ATTEs.
Hmm.
Whereas with this one, like we did get the newest ATTE, but again, both you and I thought for like a hot second that was an episode 2 set
Right.
because the ATTE has always been associated with episode 2.
So is the
Um,
gunship, in my mind,
yeah,
anyways.
the ATAPs just don't really do much for me, and then the duels on Mustafar and
Yeah.
those kind of things, and the starfighters aren't like really exciting. I do have some brief data to share. I'll go through this really quickly. Most valuable set on this one is the original clone turbo tank, coming in right now new for $1,000. The one with the highest growth. Interestingly enough, can you guess that one, Grinch?
Well, I had just pulled up the data and now I'm looking at it. But if I had to guess, I would not have guessed this one. Um, I would say it's something randomly small, like a battle pack.
And you would be close in that it is small. It's the General Grievous chase set, the first one, which is interesting because your General Grievous chase set is currently sitting in my sister-in-law's basement, split up into a million pieces. The General Grievous ship is still fairly intact,
I know.
but like the lizard thing is definitely
The
not.
lizard thing.
I, yeah, remember this is the one with Obi-Wan and the lizard.
Yeah,
Like
but
the
you called
lizard.
it a lizard thing. His name is
What is that?
Booga. Or
Oh,
wait, no, it's Boga. Oh my god, somebody's gonna roast me. Booga.
it's the Brachiosaurus of
It's the Brachiosaurus.
Star Wars Episode 3.
Nah, dude, this is
Uh,
like an Aztec like chameleon over here.
yeah, it's like this weird eagle-looking like lizard, four-legged lizard creature.
I just looked
It's
it
not
up. It's a Varactyl.
there we go. Varactyl. I knew that.
Duh.
It's not a really memorable set other than that. They did re-release General Grievous's bike, his wheel bike, later. This is very solidly like what I would label as like a very distracting device in the movies. Like, what does this do other than put distance between General Grievous and Obi-Wan? You know what I mean? Like, it moves them from one area of combat to another. But other than that, like, it rolls off the edge and falls. And so it's like, it's only in the movie for a few minutes, and it really doesn't make a huge difference.
You know, Lego loves their vehicles.
They do. They do. And I suppose that makes sense. If you look at the newer one, it is by far superior to the old one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has a clear Technic like wheel.
Remember how I said sometimes Lego gets it perfectly from the get-go? This is a case where they did not.
Yes. Even the newer General Grievous looks a lot better. A lot more menacing. The arms articulate a lot better. So
It is crazy
yeah.
though that the first one was $5 less. But piece count's way different.
Yeah, with all those solid pieces.
Yeah.
I think that's basically it. Let me see if there's any other data that I wanted, GWiz data I wanted to share. On here it says the set with the most pieces is the newest ATT. Okay, cool, neat. Grinch, unless you have anything else, why don't we talk about what we're building this week?
This is by far the
Final
best
word.
prequel movie.
You know it is, but I still struggle with some of the injected comedy. The droids in the beginning
I don't.
really.
Yeah, I I don't like how like they gave more of the droids personality in this, and I know they kind of continued that into Clone Wars, and it just they're droids. They don't need to be like, what with that? Like did they program them to act
Yeah.
stupid? Because they're a droid, so somebody would have programmed them to do like, even if they have AI, they would have like either learned that from people or like were programmed to do it. And so like when like R2's fighting them, they're like, "Hey you, stupid little
Yeah.
astro droid."
I think it really, the problem with the entire prequel series is the comedy in it undercuts the seriousness of the movies. And again, we talked about like the jarring nature of going from like episode 3 to episode 4, like visually.
Mm-hmm.
That is how it feels when you see the battle droids like make stupid jokes like that.
Yeah.
And then 2 hours later, you have a strongly implied scene where Anakin Skywalker kills children, and you're just like, wow, I am getting tonal whiplash at the moment with the way this movie has been edited and structured, and it doesn't feel right. You know, the battle droids in my mind should be menacing, and they should be like silent, and they should be communicating in like ways that we can't even hear. And
Mm-hmm.
so like there's no reason why would they even need to talk. They literally transmit data back and forth to each other. They
Right.
should just be like
They
silent
send
assassins.
emails and then just look at each other and be like, "Nah, I got you, brother."
Right, like it doesn't, it just, it anyways.
All right. What are we building? What are we building?
Let's continue. So Grinch, what are you building this week?
I am moving into my new house. So I did not build any Lego, but what I've done is I am, I got to set my house up first. Unfortunately, got to like move in. But in the next couple weeks, hopefully, I will be starting my new Lego shelves, and I've um, doing some more custom work with them. Hopefully, easy to replicate in the future too, if to add more shelves. But I think the coolest feature of them is going to be that I actually found a local plastics company that custom cut some plexiglass for me, really, really thin. As thin as I could, because these were my old Lego shelves behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, if you've seen my collection video, you've seen these before. They have these glass doors, but in the middle of it is like 3 inches of wood that literally block, 20, 10% of the viewing area. So these plexiglass panels are going to be, I'm going to make them magnetic on the sides. And I got some really high power, low profile magnets to put on each corner, and just magnetic tape to put around the side of it. So I'll literally magnetize the plexiglass onto the shelf so that it's got a completely clean viewing experience, from end to end. It's not going to be interrupted at all, and it's just going to be like nothing's there.
I
Um,
really like your Billy bookcase displays. So
oh, these will be
I,
better. These will be better.
I'm
And actually, weirdly enough, it'll be cheaper because the Billies are more expensive than the actual Billy. And it was $55 per plexiglass sheet for me, and about $20 for all the magnet tape to go around it. So that's less than $100 for
yeah.
the my new quote unquote door, whereas the Billy doors are about $110, $120.
Like I said, I like them, but
So
I hear you. I'm excited to see what you put together. Grinch, you always have some fun display ideas.
what about
So
you?
I am not necessarily building. I continued my theme last week of deconstructing the UCS Millennium Falcon. And while I did it, I had a modification idea. And
Grinch has left the chat.
dear listener and viewer, as you may recall, I am more likely to mod Lego sets than Grinch is.
More likely, I will
But
not do it. I am a collector and displayer.
what is the one problem with the UCS Millennium Falcon?
Are you going to say it's too big, so you got the MIDI scale?
No.
Oh,
Like, let's just look at the model itself. What is the problem with the model?
the interior is kind of lacking.
Literally half of the model is empty.
I was actually so disappointed by that when I built that thing. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, cool! I'm on this section where the chess happens," and like, yeah, cool. And like, oh, this door goes nowhere.
It's just
Oh,
blank.
this is empty. Oh,
So one
so is
great
this
thing,
section.
one of the areas is empty because it contains the gun that falls in Empire Strikes Back. And so the mechanism for that actually takes up some
Mm-hmm.
vertical space. But there's still a lot of empty space. The other area, though, is completely empty, and it's actually where I kept the pieces that made up the radar dish and extra bits from The Force Awakens that you could convert it to the Force Awakens model with. That I
Yet
never
to
really.
see anybody who's ever done that, but whatever.
Yes. And I also have not done that. So that's just where I stored them, and I stored the minifigures in that section too. What's interesting when you build the model, and you get a feel for this too when you deconstruct it, is all of those floor panels and all four sections of the Millennium Falcon are held on by those gray push pins, and they're just push pinned into that section, and they
Mm-hmm.
almost drop out if you take apart the bottom. And so why that's notable is the section that's empty is very easy to fill. And I don't think this was done on purpose, but Lego last year released a really kind of silly set. It was a holiday set for the Millennium Falcon with Rey and Finn in Christmas sweaters,
Mm-hmm.
but it had like a bunk in it. And so I purchased that the other day because it is now retired on Lego or sold out.
Yeah.
And with the intent of effectively building it into a modular insert for that section of the Millennium Falcon. So I'll still have the original one that's just empty, but then I'll have this one that I can just sort of add in for a little extra detail. I don't think that matches any sort of cross section of what the Millennium Falcon looks like inside, but that part of the model was never meant to really be like a one-to-one scale representation. It was
Sure.
always kind of. So, anyways, I'm excited for that. That those type of projects kind of I think are really fun. So I'm excited to kind of play around with that a little bit. Probably in 4 years when I unpack my Legos after the subsequent moves that I'm facing here in the next few years. But yeah, it'll be in the works. So
Nice.
that's what I was building this week. I think actually for the next few years, I will probably collect more Lego than I will build it. But I'm excited. I've been thinking on building more in studio.
I love Stud.io. I actually
Yeah,
don't know. I think it's just Studio,
yeah. I think
or
it
it's
is
just
studio.
Stud.io, but I think it's supposed to just be called Studio.
What I have been planning on doing is modding some of the modular buildings, adding extra floors to them. But can you import the sets completed into Stud.io?
I don't think so, unless you have the file where somebody's done it.
Yeah, I got to play around with that a little bit because I tried doing this with the gingerbread house, changing the colors on it,
Mm-hmm.
but building a set on Stud.io, like off of instructions, is
It's pretty
difficult.
tedious. Yeah, you need like two monitors so you can have the instructions on one side and
Yeah.
your Stud.io on the other side.
I did find a way you can import the set and it breaks it out into all of the pieces into Stud.io. So they're already there, like sitting in front of you. And then you can just click and
Yeah,
drag. But yes, it is tedious. So
you should
anyway,
make your own modular in Stud.io.
I tried doing that. It's tough, but I should play around with
Yeah,
that. Yeah. Anyways,
Brick mail.
enough with that. Let's go on to our brick mail for this week. So this week we had 2 bits of brick mail. And the first one was these were both in relation to our last episode, our top 5. We had 2 commenters. The first one, who's a new commenter to the series, so we
Your boy
appreciate it.
Taco.
Yeah, your boy Taco 2091. He said, in his opinion, the top 5 Lego sets are the T1 Typhoon versus Mutant T-Rex from Dino Attack.
Can I just say the T1 Typhoon is like freaking awesome, by the way.
That's the helicopter, isn't it?
It's like an attack helicopter. It's like the beige and red one from Dino Attack. It's like pretty sure it's like 18 inches long or something like that. It's a huge set. It's really cool.
It looks like a Russian Hind, like attack helicopter. Yes.
I'm gonna take your word on that one. It looks like the Lego T1 Typhoon to me. Wait, is the Hind the one from Call of Duty? It is. Yes, it does look like that one.
Yes. I see you. Yes, I would agree. That is a really cool set. The Stranger Things idea set, the Jurassic Park gate, big fan. I think your boy Taco Cat has a Lego theme here that he really likes. Diagon Alley, the remake, fair. And he said any Ninjago modular city set.
I don't think the Stranger Things set. I don't think it was ideas.
Yeah, I don't recall.
It was not. It was a Lego original. Somebody made it at a convention.
Yeah.
Like way bigger and like the same concept. And like I think they got kind of mad at Lego. Being like you stole this from us, and like no, like dude, we've been working on this for a while. It was like a controversy.
I think your boy Taco has some great suggestions for his top 5. So
Jurassic Park Great's awesome. Diagon Alley is also really cool. And yeah, any of them, pick and choose any of your Ninjago cities. They're awesome. Yeah. I'll take Calvin's.
Yeah, take Calvin's.
Yeah, so he said, Grinch, I'm surprised that you chose Betrayal at Cloud City for your Star Wars set. I remember when that set was on shelves. It wasn't well received at all. Didn't sell that well either. It did have good minifigures, though. And it's funny you say that, and I replied to your comment this morning, but it's funny you say that because that's exactly how the original Cloud City was perceived also. It was, what is this crappy set? Oh, these are cool minifigures. Oh my gosh, arm printing on Boba Fett? That's so cool. Lando Calrissian's not a yellow face. Like, they have the skin tone accurate. Like, this is really cool. But it didn't sell well. And it also wasn't received well when it first came out. And I was just kind of calling my shot with that set. I almost chose the Slave one, which Calvin does go on to say his personal top 5 is 6399 Airport Shuttle. Always wanted as a kid, but it was never going to happen. Finally bought one a few years ago. As an irresponsible adult, I'm like hits way too close to home. I don't remember 6399 off the top of my head. Yeah, that's the with the monorail system. That was probably expensive a couple of years ago, especially if you bought that new.
Yeah.
But I've said that a few times, haven't I, West? And my wife has just stopped asking me how much that set cost. She just is better. She doesn't know. Set number 2 is a roller coaster. Definitely in my top 10 personally. Absolutely love that set. The best, it says not the best build, but once it's done, it's fantastic and functionality is great. That's probably the set I've played with the most in my adult life, is that roller coaster. Then UCS Slave 1, amazing build, great minifigure, looks outstanding on display, his personal favorite UCS. West has that set. You can ask West. I almost put that over Cloud City last week, but I went with Cloud City just because I wanted to call my shot, and I really think in 10 years, we'll be looking back at Betrayal of Cloud City, because Lego's not going to do a Cloud City ever again because it didn't sell well twice now, and we'll be in the same situation we're in with the original Cloud City. Haunted House. Looks amazing on display, good minifigures, just overall great set. Thought about putting that one on the list too. It definitely crossed my mind. It just maybe, if I had to put a number to it, I'd probably say number 11, number 12 for me, right outside my top 10 personally, because there's just so many great sets. But that's why this was really fun. And then he said Emerald Knight. Well, it's not my favorite train. That spot solely belongs to the Metro liner with the club car. Nice, good choice. I do think this is the best looking Lego train it's ever made. The build's good and also looks great running on display. I actually suggested that one to West when we were kind of looking at the list. My one critique of it is that it only comes with one passenger car, which is super annoying in my mind because it just begs for more.
I think, and I've seen it with people building out more cars, I think the Emerald Knight is a great set.
I still want it, yeah.
This is going to be controversial. I think
Say it.
Orient Express is the better of the two. The new pieces that the Orient Express introduces slims down the build a little bit.
Get out.
Get out.
You're not my brother.
Are amazing.
I'll agree with you on the cars.
It's 8 wide. It's 8 wide. The superior train scale.
But 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 you didn't mention anything about the locomotive and why it was better. So if we're talking about the best Lego locomotive, I'm giving it to the Emerald Knight.
I still think the pieces on the Orient Express make it a far superior locomotive, but I get that between the two of them, the Emerald Knight locomotive is a little more exciting to look at.
Hey Calvin, what are you doing? You want to co-host a podcast? Wes just fell out of his chair. No, we have to disagree. It's good. It's good to disagree.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the deal, right? Like Emerald Knight is a fantastic set. Clearly. I mean, both you and I have been pining over it ourselves.
Yes.
So like you built one in black and made it
I did. A Polar Express. I modified it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks great.
It did.
So, yeah, great choices. We appreciate the feedback, guys, and the comments. So leave a comment either about Star Wars Episode 3 or maybe our takes on Star Wars. Let us know if our tangents this episode were maybe a little too much. We can dial that back. We've both had very hectic weeks.
It's been a long week, y'all. I actually really enjoyed this episode, though, so #NotSorry. Let us know in the comments. Question of the week. What are your prequel list favorite prequels based off the Lego sets, not the movies, purely based off the Lego sets? What's your order? Personally, mine would be Episode 3, 2, 1, and 3 and 2 are pretty close.
Yeah. And that's a wrap of another episode of AFOLs Welcome. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you are listening to the show. If you would like to write the podcast, please email us at afolswelcome@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at afolswelcome. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
So.